is happening? This hangout on air is live. Holy cow. I did it again. What's happening, road dogs and highway hounds? William Bentley Blackburn. He's back like a bad habit. But no, I was watching his channel and he's talking about SegWit, and he has kind of a different approach from me, and I love different approaches because, you know, one thing is for sure is I'm probably mostly wrong about most things that I think, and I like people that don't think the same way that I do. And we're going to talk about our understanding of SegWit and Bitcoin Unlimited. What's really interesting to me is we think very similarly, and you and I have come to like polar opposite conclusions on this. I think like, and it's, you know, it's good. It's going to be a good, friendly discussion. So it's cool, you know, and that's why I wanted to do this, was because I think it'll be interesting. But just from my perspective, how I view the Bitcoin Unlimited and SegWit thing is, you know, just watching it. And we're both, you know, just dudes trying to understand and make sense of what the heck is going on, because I think everybody is, you know, trying to figure this stuff out. But you know, we both watched the Roger Ver and Tone Veys debate, and just my perception on it was, on that debate and the things that happened after that, was it seems to me like the majority of people want SegWit. The majority of peons like me want SegWit. And it was like Roger Ver was like the only one doing it, you know, the only one pounding the table for it. And it's like, okay, the guy owns Bitcoin.com, so, you know, and everybody calls it Bitcoin Jesus, so it's like, probably should listen to him. But for some reason, there was a disconnect for me when I would listen to him. And with the majority of people leaning towards SegWit, and from what I how I understand it, which is not very good, just seemed like the right way to go. But then what the thing that really turned me off with Bitcoin Limited was the whole ASICs boost. When that happened, when that news came out about the ASICs boost, that Jihan Wu's company produced a bunch of these miners, and all of a sudden now we're making decisions based upon the fact that the miners don't want to lose money. And to me, you know, as a free market guy like you are, I'm thinking, well, you know what? You made a bad decision. You're going to lose money. And that's kind of how the market cleanses itself. But go ahead and you take the floor.
Okay. So I watched that debate, and, you know, I got a couple things from it. By the way, before I get too ahead of myself, I want to say, hey, Andy, saw you in the chat room, so I want to just say, hey. So the debate, from what I could gather, Roger is clearly very invested in Bitcoin. He has a vested interest in seeing it succeed, mainly because his life savings is in it. His company is based off of it. Everything that he does is Bitcoin. And I think, though, that there's a misconception about what his end goals are. And the whole ASIC boost thing, you know, it was definitely not cool. But that comes with monopolies. There's always those issues, and Bitmain is a monopoly. It has a complete hold on the market. So my issue is not necessarily with Bitmain, but that there's no innovation in the mining community. Like, for example, in the video, I think I mentioned this yesterday in the video I made, there's no Newegg of Bitcoin mining machines, you know, and if there was this marketplace of Bitcoin mining machines where different companies could bring all their different units to market, then I feel like we wouldn't have these problems, like with the ASIC boost issue. You know, like Google holds a lot of different patents. I mean, thousands of different patents. We're not allowed to do anything with it. We can't touch it. We can't do anything. And I think that's just what happened here with the whole with Bitmain, is they just got too powerful. And that was definitely a big issue for me. So I agree with you on that. That was a big problem. But in the debate, Tone Veys said this, and I wrote this down because it just shocked me so much. They were on the topic of censorship. And recently, Reddit has had a big issue with censoring a lot of different people. Like during the campaign, I was following it pretty close. During the presidential campaign, r/the Donald is one of the biggest communities on Reddit. There were people getting censored constantly off of Reddit. And for example, there were people that were on there and they said some positive things about Donald Trump and they said some negative things about Clinton. Immediately gone. And Reddit's stock price is actually a total representation of that. But on this particular censorship issue, Tone Veys had this to say, and this is at 40 minutes. So if anyone wants to go look it up, go check it out. I don't think everyone should have a say in these matters. I think people who are qualified in this matter should have a say in these matters. And that to me was a big issue. And I know Tone Veys is a huge supporter of SegWit, and I have nothing personally against Tone Veys. But when you start advocating for censorship and advocating for moderation of speech in a certain community, then I start to have a problem. So then I start questioning things. The whole debate between Bitcoin Unlimited and SegWit is that Bitcoin Unlimited it doesn't have the funding. There's flaws in it. There's a lot of issues. But on the SegWit side, there's tons of funding. There's plenty of great engineers that are involved in the project. There's tons of data scientists. And that makes sense, but it's not, to me, that doesn't mean that it's the best way to go. And that was all I got out of the debate from Tone Veys. From Roger Ver, he kind of advocated for Bitcoin Unlimited a little bit better in my eyes. And everywhere I've seen the debate take place, I see Roger Ver kind of come out and like express his side on the whole issue pretty well. I mean, he holds his ground pretty damn well, and he's able to express it in a clear, concise way. Like, for example, when he went on to Adam Meister's show, Bitcoin Meister, I think he did a great job. Again, I don't know the guy. I have no skin in the game on this, but I just saw the way he talked and the way he expressed it. You could tell he was not trying to BS. And he's been developing Bitcoin for many years. So he's not new to it. He's been he's been developing it for so long, and he's, talked to all these different developers that talk to Satoshi, and there's so much in his past, so much history there, that I tend to trust him a little more than some of the SegWit guys. Again, I'm not against SegWit. I looked at the tech and I've looked into it. I think SegWit is a good project, but if we want to beat the banks, then we need a currency that can be used in everyday transactions. If we cannot make everyday transactions with Bitcoin, then the banks still win, because it'll just end up like gold, right?
Now, see,
gold is.
I got a question now. I've heard you say that before, but SegWit's going to help it scale too, so you will be able to do it with everyday transaction if SegWit gets put through.
But is it faster? Well, it's still. I think that it'll probably still get backed up. The transactions will still get backed up. I don't think so. I think that's why they're doing the SegWit thing, is so it can scale. I think, but it scales off blockchain, I guess. It's a hard concept to wrap your head around, Right. But, yeah, absolutely. It is tough, and that's why.
I kind of think the way I come at it, so I don't, get too stressed about it, is, I do believe that Roger Ver loves Bitcoin. I do believe that, was it Bitcoin Core people love Bitcoin. So I don't really think that they're trying to harm it, like I've heard a lot of people say. But
right. I don't think so either. I don't think anybody's trying to harm. I don't think anybody is trying to harm Bitcoin at all.
Yeah, I do think both of them would work. One thing I do like about SegWit is the on-ramps and off-ramps. And I don't know if you'd have that.
I'm not too familiar with it. Like I say, I'm not nearly as up to snuff on some of the technical terms, but just from a philosophical point, the debates and the arguments that people have had between Bitcoin Unlimited and SegWit, I just haven't seen the SegWit side openly debate with the Bitcoin Unlimited team. And I mean, again, nothing against Adam Meister at all. I think I love his personality. I love his show, but you know, when you start saying stuff like you calling, you know, Roger Veers China coin and he's a scam art, that, you know, that's just not a positive. That's not positive at all. That doesn't help the community grow. And I think it puts a lot of people off. Like for me, I was listening, and this gets into the community as a whole. It was a couple of months ago, and Amanda B. Johnson went on to a guy's show named, I can't remember the guy's name, but the channel was AMTV, Alternative Media Television. Bitcoin had been infiltrated. That's what she had mentioned. And Adams had gone to his show and said, this is insane. I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. And, you know, I mean, it's, you know, to me, I didn't think anything of it. I said, okay, well, you know, that's fine. Everybody can have their opinion. But if you want to get it figured out, have her on your show and talk to her and say, what do you mean by why is Bitcoin infiltrated? What are the reasons for that? And I don't know why. It's just been one of those situations where there's something going on behind the scenes. And when you start seeing censorship, you know there's something more nefarious going on. And I see that from the SegWit community. Again, I have nothing against SegWit. I'm just kind of a guy that's looking from the outside, just looking in saying, this is a little bit sketchy. I see the dead rat in the attic, you know what I mean? And I smell it. It's just something's not right here. And to answer some of these, some of the guys' questions over here, Roger Ver is a developer. I wouldn't say he's a developer, like technically as far as coding is concerned, but a developer in the community. You know, he's been developing Bitcoin. He's come up with ideas. He's continually come up with ideas to help scale Bitcoin. Like they have always increased the block size. That's always been the solution. Like, you know, it was a couple kilobytes to, you know, 512 kilobytes into 1 meg, you know, and now just all of a sudden it's a problem. Now it's becoming a problem, which to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If the solution was to just increase the block size continually, keep increasing it, and, you know, why fix it if it's not broke? And if that's a tried and true method, then just keep going with it. It makes sense to me. If there's more transactions, you increase the block size. That would increase the difficulty for the miners as well, because they got to go through all those transactions. I mean, and I just want to see more development in the mining community as a whole. And if the blocks become more difficult to mine, then you're going to see that. And Bitmain is a monopoly. There needs to be more Bitcoin mining companies. There just needs to be. There needs to be more people out there making these machines, building the machines, and putting them to market. But
you know,
that's just.
I was on Adam Meister's show a while back, you know, and we were talking, and I brought up basically that your title of your video was last time was like, yeah, because I was like, these miners have too much power. I was like,
right.
They stressed me out a little bit, and they concerned me. And he's like, "Oh, we're not going to talk about FUD here." And he kind of shut me down, and I was like,
I mean,
I was like, "What are you talking about, man? You got to be real." You know what I mean? And that,
right.
And that's why I appreciate your channel so much, is because you're real. You know, it's like, hey, the miners kind of scare me.
Yeah.
and the thing right now, which is so odd to me, is you seem more sympathetic to the Bitcoin Unlimited side, and to me, that is like the miners' control side or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well,
because they don't want to, you know, Jihan Wu doesn't want to lose his mining power, you know, because he's got all these freaking miners and they'll be worthless, and he'll have to compete again, you know, because he overstepped it, you know. But it's just.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, I'm totally in agreement with you, but I think the solution is more competition, not to completely change the Bitcoin code. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but the ultimate long-term plan of Bitcoin Core is to eventually do a hybrid of proof of stake and proof of work. Is that correct?
I haven't heard of that. And
Or is that wrong?
if that's true, I would be totally against that, because my definition of proof of stake is ruled by the rich, and I do not want anything like that. Proof of work, that's why Ripple
Right.
and Ethereum, they're all going to proof of stake. Once you go to proof of stake, you're off my list. You just entered the list that I won't call it the bad list. We'll call it the bad list.
No, absolutely.
That's one of those accursed words. Once you say proof of stake, I'm out. Fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Pre-mine, I'm out. Proof of stake, I'm out.
I'm just not interested at that point. I like the proof of work because it creates another economy, another side to the whole economy, the ecosystem. In the ecosystem of Bitcoin, you've got the investors, you got the people that are buying stuff with Bitcoin, they're selling stuff for Bitcoin. And then you've got the miners that they also add to the ecosystem. They are a big part of the ecosystem in my eyes. And I just feel like they've kind of been shunned out a little bit. I got into Bitcoin mining in 2013. And like I've mentioned before, I couldn't afford it. So I kind of left. So I have a little bit of sympathies towards the Bitcoin miners, because a lot of them, they don't really care about the ideological side of Bitcoin. They only care about the
financial.
How do you say? Yeah, exactly. They just care to make the Bitcoins and then sell them. And I work with a guy that mines Bitcoins at where I work, and he just wants to make them and then sell them, and that's it. He's just interested in the experiment of Bitcoin. He doesn't really care about control. But I agree.
Bitcoin Unlimited, that's why I feel like they're holding the whole thing up, is because, hey, we've got all these miners and they're going to be worthless if we go with the SegWit that everybody wants. So we're the miners and we have the power, and we're just going to not switch over. And that's the whole idea of, like, they got too much power and I don't like it, and I'm going SegWit no matter what, just because that's my perception.
Right.
And then, as far as Roger Ver is concerned, the guy is one of the earliest adopters of Bitcoin. So he's got 50 million, whatever, I don't know how many, he's got a bunch of Bitcoin that he's sitting on. And he wants everybody to go into Bitcoin. And he says, well, it's against Satoshi's white paper. But here's the thing. This is a new invention. And with new inventions, there is an evolutionary process that comes along. Satoshi originally created the block size to be unlimited, and then he put a cap on it, And
right.
The thing is, because things change and things are different, there's an evolution going on. And a big thing for me, is fairness of the release and distribution of this new currency. And that's why I like Bitcoin and Litecoin, because you got gold and you've got silver, and that 1-in-4 relationship, that 1/4 relationship can help level the playing field and bring the rest of us up to Roger Ver. Because I don't know if it was on that Tone Veys debate or a different place, but he said that the time elapsed from Roger Ver getting into Bitcoin and Tone Veys getting into Bitcoin was enough to make the difference of their investments just no comparison. So to me, I like the on-ramps and off-ramps so that Bitcoin and Litecoin can work together. And hopefully someday we're going to be able to sit down and talk about a nickel coin, but not today.
Absolutely.
But something about that, it's a new monetary system. It was sprung on us. Nobody knew it in 2008, 2009, except for a handful of people.
Very small few.
Yeah, and that's something else that's always kind of bothered me, is the way it's released is the most are given out at the front, and when everybody accepts it, the least are given out, and it's like, that's kind of crappy, that's not cool. But
well, I don't know if you're familiar with the channel. It's Road to Ruta with Bix Weir. Bix Weir made a good point. He's a Bitcoin Unlimited supporter, and he just wants to see Bitcoin used in everyday transactions, because there's so many people that are unbanked. And if you got those people onto a quote unquote banking system like Bitcoin, then you would see just an explosion in technological advances. And
But I
most
think
of
that's
them are
what
not.
happened with SegWit or Bitcoin Unlimited.
Well, that's the thing. Like that was the, you know, I don't, again, SegWit, I don't know. You know, I'm not really sure. But I've heard that SegWit tends to give more incentive to the investor because it's more of a long-term type situation. It's not really a long-term solution, from what I understand. And it just, for me, I follow a principle called KISS. Keep it stupid simple. And if increasing the block size is all you have to do to fix the problem, that just seems like such a simple solution to me. And I know that there's a lot of extra stuff.
What's going to happen though is you're going to fork it, and it's contentious, and you're going to have 2 Bitcoins. You know, that's just inevitable if you go Bitcoin Unlimited way.
Right.
So if Bitcoin Unlimited happens, you're going to have 2 Bitcoins because the people on SegWit aren't going to go.
Well, I think you're probably going to see a hard fork anyway. You know, like I kind of get the feeling that you might see it anyway, because the Bitcoin Unlimited crowd, they might just say, well, to hell with it. We got to still try to make money, and we're not going to make money with SegWit. So we're going to go do our own thing. So you might still see that. And the other, you know, the thing is that the miners play a really crucial role in keeping and maintaining the blockchain. I think that's a really important, you know, obviously that's really important. If you lose all your miners, then no one's maintaining the blockchain. Then what happens? You know, then you got backed up. You've got all these different orders backed up, transactions. It would be a mess. I mean, it peaked at like 200,000 just like 2 weeks ago. I mean, that's pretty bad. It just seems like such a simple solution to me, just to increase the block size and be done with it, you know, and move on. I know that there's definitely some other things that Bitcoin could do, like the RSK Labs. I totally dig that project. It's a really cool project.
I think the SegWit to do that too.
Exactly. I know. Well, I don't think, I think even in that debate, I think Roger even mentioned it. He's not even necessarily against the idea of SegWit. He just wants to see the problem of the slow transactions, the high transaction fees fixed. That's the only thing that matters, right? Because especially to a lot of the Bitcoin miners, when they mine it, they sell it so that way they can pay their bills. So they need that fast move in, you know, transactional currency. If they don't get it, then they have to move to something else. They have to do something else.
Yeah, it's crazy because, you know, at one point, you know, you get kind of passionate about it, and you stop using your head, you know,
right.
and people would start jumping into camps, and it's just kind of like one of these things to where it's like, you know what, I'm just going to buy, I'm just going to hold, and hopefully, you know, because I'm really not, I mean, I suppose this is doing something, you know, we're getting our voices out, but we're talking about it and trying to be, you know, hats off to Mad Bitcoins, you know, Thomas Hunt over there, because he come out with some things to cool everybody's mouths down because everybody's getting kind of hostile. But you know,
it's just kind of a mess. I mean, I'm not even, like I say, I'm not even in a camp. I don't like to be in a camp. I just like to see success. You know, I'm not really looking to be on one side or the other side, because that's how globalists and the social engineers divide people. They divide you by different things, red versus blue, Republican, Democrat. That's how they divide you. And now we're even seeing that happen in the Bitcoin community. SegWit versus Bitcoin Unlimited. It doesn't matter which solution is implemented, as long as the solution is the best solution possible. That to me is the biggest issue. I don't have any problem with SegWit, and I don't have any problem with Bitcoin Unlimited. I'm sure both are very competent and both are good implementations. It's just the way I've heard it being put is that SegWit would be more for investors and Bitcoin Unlimited would be more for everyday transactions, because that's just the way it's being portrayed, for example. So that's kind of the two different ideologies right now, I guess.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me because, you know, really, what I'm kind of taking away from this is neither one of us really know what we're talking about. And I think that's true for most people. And I think a lot of people get really passionate about what they perceive as being right, but really both of our opinions are really not based on factual information. It's more perceptions, right, things like that. And so, I guess what you take away from this is just, like that old Boston song, hold on loosely, but don't let go. You know what I'm saying?
Great song, though.
Yeah.
Awesome song.
But I suppose that's about it. You got anything more you want to add? Or?
Well, yeah, I don't think, I think you're right. I think the debate is not based on, it doesn't need to be based on fact. It just needs to be ideological. And the programmers will program around those ideologies. So if people want to see an everyday transactional currency, they'll make a cryptocurrency for everyday transactions. If they want to see a currency that's buy and hold, then they'll code for a buy and hold person. I don't even think, again, either way is fine. But I just as someone who's really sick and tired of dealing with the banking industry, and someone who's just really sick and tired of governments and corruption, I would just like to see Bitcoin as an everyday transaction. That's just the way I see it.
I think SegWit's going to do that. I don't know. I think.
Yeah, and I don't doubt it.
Maybe you get that from that debate or something, but I don't. Yeah. I think SegWit is going to make it possible for everyday transactions.
Well, let me give you this then, because I remember Tone Veys made this point. He said that it was okay that if he wouldn't mind having $100 transaction fee for Bitcoin, and it would only be used for the $100, $1,000, $100,000 type of transactions. Well, if that's the case, then you're really giving the power to the elites. You're giving the power to those who can actually afford to use Bitcoin. And that to me is a bit of a problem. When I heard that, and then I heard the whole, I don't think anybody should just be talking about it. I think only the people that are qualified should be talking about it. That's like saying, I don't think people that don't know anything about politics, they shouldn't get a vote. Only people who are qualified to talk about politics should get a vote. And who qualifies for that? I know that, you got the programmers and they know what they're talking about, but ideologically they might not. All they do is code. The ideology is not as important to them. And I just want to see Bitcoin successful. That's all it really boils down to. And I'm not even a Bitcoin Unlimited supporter per se. I'm just a supporter of what is the most successful and what beats the banks. What gets rid of these scum-sucking octopus off of our faces. Like, it's just so annoying. It's so frustrating because every day that passes, there's more crap about Deutsche Bank's going to collapse, all these unfunded liabilities. It's just so frustrating. And I would hate to see Bitcoin being used as only a currency for people that have tons of money. That would be kind of sad.
But it's kind of funny, man. It's like I watched Roger Ver on some debate, or not debate, but it was more like an interview, and he was like crying about the babies that were killed in Iraq. You know what I mean?
And yeah, and how it can end wars and all that.
And it's kind of like, for me, he's working so hard for the success of Bitcoin, and to me, it's just, I love irony, but I think when you'll know that Bitcoin is successful is when it's used for war.
I know.
Fun wars.
That's the sad part.
I know, because it's human nature, man. You're never going to get away from it. It's money.
No, I know.
You're going to have war. When we start building bombs with Bitcoin, then
war is racket.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. The possibilities are so limitless. And if we lose this opportunity, then there's no telling when we get it again. I mean, it's just, Oh, I just want to see it successful. That's all it really boils down to.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of my thing is like if Bitcoin self-destructs or something, which I don't think it will. I think, you know,
I think all of it it'll probably all work itself out. There
yeah.
probably won't be all this nonsense, in 5 years, we'll still be looking back and saying, oh, all those problems were fixed, no problems.
But how do you restart a currency like this? I mean, because,
I know.
You look at Ethereum and the 80% pre-sale, pre-mine, that just drives me nuts. I mean, there's so much greed and corruption and deception out there. That's why I don't like altcoins, is because, I think
you got to do a lot of research on them for sure.
Yeah, who wants to do that with every freaking new altcoin? What is there, like 1,000 now, or
730? There's a 730.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I'm going to sit around and study all these altcoins again. I had better things to do with my time. Let's take the gold and silver and just go with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully that
that's what I hope. That's what happens.
Self-destruct.
By the way, before we go, I want to shout out to Trayvon James. He did that video today on Ethereum, and he was saying,
I watched that too.
Yeah, he said, it's Illuminati coin. I personally like Trayvon. I like his personality. I think he's pretty funny, but he made the point, and I'm just really glad that more people are getting out of the whole mindset of I just want to make money and getting into the mindset of, okay, is this a positive project or is it a negative project for humanity? And so when I heard him talking about how Ethereum is going to be used as a control system, that was awesome. That was amazing. I was so excited to hear that. So yeah, kudos to Trayvon for sure.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yep. I love that when I hear people talking about the ethics and the philosophy behind it. That's why I like your channel. Go down below and click on Will's channel and go there, subscribe, support him, send him money and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you ain't got to do that. It's all about ideas with me.
Do you take money? Or do you
I have addresses down there and stuff like that. But I don't really care. I don't promote it on my channel.
Money, aren't you?
It helps, but I'm not.
Yeah.
That's not really what I'm doing it for. I just want to, because when you have all these ideas and you can't talk to anybody about them, you're just like, Andreas had that great talk I think it was a couple weeks ago. He talked about you're sitting at you're really into Bitcoin when you're sitting at the table with your loved ones and all that, and they just sit there and they just want you to shut up. It's like, that is exactly where I'm at. They just want me to be quiet. Okay, we've heard this talk 500,000 times. Like, but it's different this time. It's just, no, it isn't. We've heard it all before. So yeah, no, it's exactly. I love to discuss this type of stuff because I see the implications and the applications for all these different cryptocurrencies. And, just like Made Safe, decentralizing the internet, no more ICANN, that would be amazing. That'd be awesome. So there's too many possibilities in this space and I just can't pass it up.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll hang it up for this time, but it's been a blast. I love your channel. Go down there and subscribe.
Thanks, man.
Well, adios, muchachos.